We're going to continue on with Chapter 9 of Midnight Howl. First, I have to find Chapter 9. There's 6, 7, 8. Oh, there it is. Chapter 9. Found it. All right, here we go. I was really ready for the weekend. Me too. I had just about stopped getting lost in the halls and figured out what was going on in my classes, but it was still hard work. Saturday morning, Jack came downstairs all lit up and full of energy, bouncing on the balls of his feet. "Hey there, ladies," he said, tugging my ponytail lightly. "What's with you?" Haley asked, amused. "What are you doing up so early on a Saturday?" "It's a beautiful day," he said, sweeping his arm toward the window. "The sun is shining, breezes are blowing, and it's the perfect day to take our new pal," he pointed to me, "on a ride and picnic." "Great," I said. It was a little chilly for a picnic, but I'd noticed that people here felt if it wasn't frost, it was a good day to be outside. My mom's weirded about me riding without an adult, though. "Don't worry," Jack said. "Haley and I take riders out all the time, and there are 3 of us, so after you break your leg, one of us can stay with you and the other can go for help." I stared at him. "Kidding," he said. "Seriously, my mom knows it'll be fine, and she can convince your mom." And she did. As the only child of a single mom, I'm used to my mom checking everything out for me. She meets my friends' parents before she lets me spend the night at their houses, and she calls to make sure I get where I'm going when I say I'm going. When I go to visit my dad, it's twice as bad, because he's not used to having me around all the time, so he feels like he has to be extra careful. But Molly talked and talked about how responsible Jack and Haley were, and how experienced on horseback. She said how good they were at teaching new riders, and how they both had first aid certification and had done special overnight horseback trips for years. Finally, it seemed like my mom was exhausted by all the words, and she agreed to let me go. Jack let out a brown horse with a black mane and tail and tied it to the fence. Then went back to the barn and brought out a black horse with a lighter brown one and tied them next to the first. "This is BB," he said, patting the brown horse's neck. "She's very friendly and patient. We always give her to new riders because she's calm, and she likes to stay with the other horses. If you don't tell her where to go, she'll come right along anyway." I stroked BB's nose carefully. She had a white stripe down her face, and the hairs were coarse under my fingers. She blew out the air and looked at me in a friendly way. "She's nice," I said. "Of course she is," said Jack. He showed me how to step up to climb on BB's back and told me how to hold the reins. "This one is Shadow," he said, swinging easily up onto the black horse. "He's my buddy. Haley usually rides Snowflake here." "Snowflake?" I said, frowning at the horse. It was undeniably brown. "I named her when I was 6, Haley called, jogging up towards us from the barn. "I'd just seen a TV show with a horse named Snowflake in it. Thanks for saddling her up, Jack. Mom asked me to spray the rosebuds before she beds them down for the winter." "Hurry up, or we'll leave without you," Jack called jokingly. Haley sped up and then slowed to a walk as she got near the horses. She reached for Snowflake's bridle, and the horse snorted and stepped back quickly from her. "Hey, Snowflake, hey!" Haley followed the horse, making soothing sounds, and it halted, noses quivering. When Haley put out her hand again to take the bridle, Snowflake half reared, moving backwards and shaking her head. Haley stopped. "I don't know what's wrong," she said, shaking her voice. "She was fine yesterday. Maybe she's sick." "Take Shadow," Jack said, slipping off his horse. "Let me try for Snowflake." Snowflake calmed down as Haley moved away from her and nuzzled Jack's hand almost apologetically. Haley reached for Shadow, and he stomped his feet and backed quickly away from her. "That's weird," said Jack. "You think?" Haley snapped. She sounded like she was about to cry. "Snowflake loves me. Forget it. I'll just stay home." Jack frowned. "No, we'll figure this out. Maybe it's the pesticide you just sprayed on the garden. You smell sort of chemically. Let me hold Shadow." He took the horse's lead and patted it on the neck, talking softly. After a minute, Shadow stood still, but when Haley moved again toward him, he tossed his head and tried to pull away. "I washed my hands," Haley said tearfully. "I can still smell the spray, though. If that's what's bothering them, I don't know how to get rid of it." Jack and Haley kept trying for a while, but Snowflake and Shadow wouldn't let Haley get near them, and Haley was getting more and more upset. The horses stomped and shifted, while BB held still and steady as a rock under me, looking more bored than I suspected a horse could look. I half expected her to pull out a Nintendo DS or something to pass the time. Okay, Jack said finally. Marisol, would you get down? I said, peering down from BB, who seemed about 10 feet tall. How was I supposed to slide off of her? Jack held out his hand for me to take hold of it, and I managed to scramble off, although not very gracefully. Haley, you take BB, Jack said. Whatever's bothering the others, she shouldn't care less. Marisol, you can ride Snowflake. Yikes, I said. Remember, I don't know how to ride. They both reassured me that Snowflake was a very gentle horse. Haley wiped her eyes with the back of her hands, and Jack attached the leading rein to Snowflake's bridle. All you have to do is sit, he said confidently. I wasn't so sure, but eventually found myself up on Snowflake's back. She didn't throw me off, so I guessed I was okay. When Haley went to mount BB, the horse showed the most life I'd seen from her, shifting nervously and sidestepping. But she let Haley get on top of her back, and we were off at last. We took a trail through the woods, and I couldn't help shifting nervously myself. The woods seemed to be alive with sounds, cracking twigs, chattering squirrels, and branches blowing in the wind. I was uncomfortably aware that, even though Haley wasn't a werewolf, at least according to the Silver Test, I had definitely heard regular wolves in these woods. And there were probably bears, and maybe mountain lions too. I like wildlife, but there aren't any big bloodthirsty animals in downtown Austin. When we broke out of the woods into a sunny meadow, my worries were temporarily forgotten. The clearing was green and pleasant, and there was a huge snow-capped mountain in front of us. On the mountain, I could see 3 separate waterfalls. It was gorgeous. Nice, right? Said Jack. Wait until you see what I packed us for lunch. He'd made soy cheese sandwiches with special homemade mustard, black bean salad, and, for dessert, double fudge brownies. It was all pretty yummy, though the mustard was definitely unique. The brownies weren't cooked all the way through, but they still tasted delicious and chocolatey. We were all starved after the ride, and we ate and ate and ate, and then we lay on the picnic table, totally stuffed. The picnic blanket, totally stuffed. Look, Haley said, pointing up at a bird circling high above us. A red-tailed hawk. It's looking for mice. A little ways off, the horses stomped their feet in the shade. They were restless, and it looked like they were watching us. No, it seemed like they were watching Haley. The silver star hung innocently around her neck. Was Tasha's idea really a good werewolf test? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with Haley and that the horses knew it. The hawk swooped in lazy circles. I closed my eyes. I wasn't going to think about this now. I was going to bask in the sunshine. My stomach was full and the sun warmed me. I felt myself getting sleepier and sleepier. Uh-oh. She nodded off. She went to sleep. Let's see what she dreams. This time the sun was shining. As I walked through the woods, I laughed at myself. There was nothing scary here. Then I heard a rustling and the snaps of breaking wood behind me. Something big was shoving its way through the branches, just off the path and just out of sight. It was moving fast. I could see the branches thrashing as it shoved its way through, but I couldn't see what was making it move. A low growl split the air. I started to run, suddenly afraid. It was getting closer, and I knew no matter how fast I ran, it would outrun me. The growl began again, louder and closer still. My heart thumped wildly inside my chest. My hands trembled, and my stomach knotted with fear. Something was coming after me, and I didn't know how to get away. I was absolutely terrified. And that's her dream. And that's the end of chapter 9. Bye.